What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lure Painting with Zach Baker. I'm Zach Baker, and that's my dog, Obi. Today we're doing another easy lure pattern for beginner. Now the pattern we're doing today is called the disco pattern. If you follow me on Instagram and or TikTok, you've already seen this pattern. I just haven't made a YouTube video out of it yet. But I call it the disco pattern. It's just a whole bunch of colors on one bait with a cool stencil. So whatever colors I'm using today, don't worry if you don't have them. I still think this bait would look cool with whatever colors you do have. Now, as you can see from the cover photo, the blank that we're using today is a shallow jointed diver from Barlow's Tackle. They sent this over. If you guys are interested in this bait, I'll have the link to it below along with their website. I thought this bait looked really cool. It has an aggressive look to it, which is why I decided to do the disco pattern on it. I also have a couple more of these blanks. I'd really like to do some natural looking colors. So if you guys have, once you see the blank up a little bit closer, if you have any patterns you'd really like to see on this blank, let me know and we'll make that a future video. But let's not waste any more time and we'll go ahead and get to painting this bait. Alright, so I just mentioned that there's really no right or wrong way to do this pattern, which I still agree with. The only thing that will make an incredible difference on how the bait looks is if you do or don't do a base coat of white. I'm choosing not to do a base coat of white because it's going to make those colors pop whenever the sun hits it. Now, if you wanted, you could do a base coat of white and then do some like silver or something like that to get some shiny, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it clear and just start putting my colors on. These are the colors we're going to be using today. Again, if you don't have all of them, it's no big deal. You can even just do this with a couple of colors and still get the same effect. First thing I'm gonna be doing is starting off with a pearl copper, and make sure when you do this, you only put a couple of drops in the brush unless you're doing a whole bunch of baits because it only takes a little bit. And I'm just going to do this randomly. There is a little bit of a way that I like to do it, or something I think looks cool, where I'm gonna do the pearlized blue on the black I'm gonna do the pearlized blue on the back and kind of up on the gill plate, transition into a purple, stuff kind of like that. But you can also just scatter these colors however you want and it's still going to look cool. I'm gonna do this pearlized copper up towards the belly and then put a couple of spots here and there. And since these colors are going on a transparent bait, they're not going to show up as good, but that's okay. That's all I'm going to be doing with the pearl copper. I'm going to clean out the airbrush and we're going to load in the pearlized orange. And I'm just going to kind of do the same thing with the orange, just doing some spots here and there. I might kind of go, I got that copper on the belly. I might do a little bit towards the back and a little bit towards the front because we can do it with the red later. And then again, a couple spots here and there. Next color is a transparent red, but any sort of red will work. I'm just kind of trying to keep colors that are lighter. That way it's not too dark on the bait. Now I'm going to be doing this red right up here at the front, right at the back, and then again with a couple splotches on the side, and maybe a little bit here towards the gill plate. Okie doke, next color is the pearl lime. Again, I keep saying this, but any color will work. These are just the colors I think looks nice and ones I have. If you have any pearl colors, I would use those over something that's not pearl just because the sparkle will look cool later on. And this green, just gonna kind of fill in the spots that I haven't hit yet, excluding the back because we're gonna be doing some purple and blue there later. So I'm not worrying about hair drying in between all of these colors. We will, however, hair dry it here in a minute before the stencil pattern goes on. But right now we're just blobbing a whole bunch of paints on, so it actually goes pretty quick. Next color up is a fluorescent violet. Now I'm gonna do this up here on the back. Go ahead and do around the eyes pretty well everywhere towards the top. That way we can kind of let that blue fade into it. And then again, trying to throw a couple splotches in here and there if I can. Purple's done. Up next is the pearl blue. Now I'm going to do this blue, trying to keep most of that purple up there by the eyes, but I'm going to have it fade into the blue and then do a solid blue along the back. And you guessed it, a couple splotches here and there on the body of the bait. Alrighty, that is all the crazy colors we're going to do. Right now, the bait kind of looks like junk. Don't worry, it's going to look killer, I promise. I'm going to hit this with a hairdryer, make sure it's nice and dry for the stencil pattern, clean out the airbrush, and then we'll be ready for our last color. This is the stencil pattern we're using. It's a ribbon from the craft store. Two things. One, if you don't have this pattern still looks killer with a normal like circle pattern. This one just adds to the chaos a little bit more. I found this at a craft store, and I'm also putting together a stencil package. Enough of you said that you would be interested in one that I'm getting that worked on, and this will be one of the stencils that's in there. Like I said though, any of these would still make for a cool design for the disco pattern. Got the stencil pattern on. Last step to do, and I'm using some transparent black. Opaque black would work great too, is I'm going to paint everything over that we just did solid black. I'm not going to worry about doing the belly as much because I put my name on the bottom with black, so it wouldn't show up. If you wanted to, you could do the belly as well, and I'll show you guys how I do the back, even though these are there right now. But let's go ahead and do a nice coat of some transparent black. Now, because I am spraying this on pretty thick, I will go ahead and hit it with the hairdryer again, do another quick coat, and then we'll be ready to take off the pattern. And, ooh, son. I love this pattern. It just looks so good. And like I said, I'm going to leave the belly how it is because I'm going to put my label on there later. So the back has a little bit of this pattern from the ribbon, but I want it to be a little bit darker, but still showing some of that pearl blue through it. So what I'm going to do, rather than trying to put the ribbon back on there, all I'm going to do, because we're just doing a quick coat of it, is I'm just going to lay this on there. Hold it down with my fingers. I am going to get some paint on my fingers, but I'm not too worried about it because it's a water-based paint, so it'll come off rather easily in the sink. And that's all I'm going to do. Taking off the scale pattern. Last thing I'm going to do, and this is just because I want the eyes I'm putting on there to stand out a little bit more, is I'm going to darken up around the eye socket, but I don't want to go too much because I want to keep all those crazy colors that's on the gill plate on there. So just around the eye socket and maybe a hair onto the actual bait itself. Just that way the eyes we put on will stand out a little bit more. That's all we're going to be doing for paint. I've got some really cool eyes that were from Barlow's Tackle as well that we're going to be putting in there. I think it's going to go perfect with this pattern. Let me clean out my airbrush. I'll bring you guys right back. We'll glue in these eyes. Here's the eyes that we're going to be doing. They're just a solid green color. I think it's going to make this bait look super aggressive. If you watched my last video where I was doing the lure painting with Dustin from Hook and Needle TV, he recommended using some gel super glue for the eyes rather than the normal kind, and I don't know why it took me so long ever to do this. Dustin, thank you so much for recommending this. Huge help, and I recommend everyone else gluing in eyes to use the gel kind because you don't have to worry about it running down the side of your bait. One of those aha moments. I'm probably never going to use normal super glue again. Gel super glue, that's the way to go. As always, I like to get my eyes ready on the tweezers first. That way, in case I put the glue in, and if the eye doesn't come off right or it goes flying off somewhere, the glue's not going to dry before I get another eye ready to go. Little dab of glue. Oh, I love those eyes. It just makes that bait look so cool. A couple new things. One, never had eyes like this before. I don't know where they've been my whole life. And then gel super glue. Two things definitely recommend to all you bait painters out there. And right now on camera, this bait probably looks pretty dull, but once that clear coat goes on, it's really going to help those colors we sprayed on earlier to stand out a little bit more. And when you hold it up to the light, it looks pretty sick. Something else I should mention on a jointed bait like this, when you get the blank, it's already connected, you can't really take it apart. If you're using the Illumini UV or KBS or any sort of clear coat that you dip or anything like that, you of course don't want to dip this whole bait in there all at once because it'll get down inside that joint and not allow it to rotate. So what I do is I brush on my clear coat on one side. So I'll hang the bait from here, brush on the bottom clear coat, let that harden, flip it over, hang it from the bottom, brush on the clear coat on this side, and let that harden. The only other alternative is if you have a spray clear coat, which I have been experimenting with, so that will eventually be a YouTube video. I'm just trying to get it down a little bit better before I show you guys how to do that. That way I don't steer anyone down the wrong path. Let's get this bad boy clear coated so you guys can see what it looks like.